Going everybody, Bryan Alvarez here on Wrestling Observer Live. We are here every day, Monday through Friday, noon Pacific, 3 Eastern, Sundays, 3 Pacific, 6 Eastern, Saturday mornings with Jim Valley, 10 a.m. Pacific, 1 Eastern, Sundays with Andrew Zarian. And it is Monday here on the show. You know what that means? Got a lot to talk about. We got Raw tonight, NXT tomorrow, Winter is coming on Wednesday. We had a NXT PLE this past weekend. We had a whole bunch of Continental Classic matches. And when we come back from the break, I'm very confident now in my Continental Classic prediction. I'm going to tell you why, and I'm going to tell you what it is when we come back from the break. I'd say if you don't want spoilers, don't listen. That's how confident I am. But it's not a spoiler because I actually don't know. But I think I figured it out. I'm going to tell you why. So we'll talk about that. Plus, the All-In 2025 thingamajigger that they did today took place. So we'll tell you about what people said during that. They're starting to sell tickets for that big show coming up in Arlington, Texas, Globe Life Field, Saturday, July 12th. How many tickets do you think they're going to sell, everybody? I think it's going to do more than 20. I think it's going to do well, but we shall see. I'll tell you why I think that. StarCast is coming back. We have got Big Boom AJ giving an injury update. We got a lot of injury updates on SmackDown regarding people injured at the War Games show. We got a transfer window coming up. A WWE reality series, LFG, WWE LFG. Some trademarks. And we'll tell you why that's important because I've already told you about it. And plenty more. If you want to text us here today, any thoughts on any of the news? 425-780-7566. That is 425-780-7566. I am F4WOnline@gmail.com if you want email. F4W Online, Threads, Instagram, and Cameo. What a Christmas present. And it's cheap. A Cameo from me will be to the loved one in your life. And at Bryan Alvarez on X and Blue Sky. Back in a moment, Observer Live. Back in the show, Bryan Alvarez. What's so funny?
The nickname that you just bequeathed.
No, it wasn't a
NLI.
nickname. It wasn't a nickname. They were doing like Wheel of Fortune, and they just had an A, and then the second one just had an N. And I was trying to figure out what it could be, and I came up with it, and I was wrong. It was Antonio Inoki. We can't say these words here on the air, but I just looked at it. What do you think I'm supposed to think? The reason I've never been on Wheel of Fortune or Jeopardy, if you ever heard the Tuesday Bryan and Vinny show. Now listen, I may not be smart in some ways, but I'm a genius in others.
Oh boy, here we go.
I am going to tell you who's winning the Continental Classic. You guys ready?
I'm ready.
All right. I'm going to tell you why, too.
Ooh, look at you with reasoning.
I was doing the Filthy Tom show.
Had an epiphany? It all happened during that show.
I had a Tiffany epiphany as we were talking about SmackDown, of all things. SmackDown is how I figured out who is winning the Continental Classic. Are you guys ready for this?
Yes.
Okay. So, SmackDown had, like, some good matches, okay? Good matches. Some very good matches. Actually, they had two, I would say, I loved them, okay? One was the main event, which was Chad Gable and Cody.
Yeah.
And the other was Bianca Belair and Piper Niven. And so Tom said that he liked the Piper Niven match better. I got to thinking about it. Because I remember when that Cody and Chad Gable match was over, I was like, golly, that match was so freaking awesome. I wish I could see those guys wrestle each other 1,000 times. But then I remember, like, that was a really good women's match. So I started thinking about it. And this actually leads me to the NXT PLE. They had a men's Iron Survivor Challenge, and they had a women's Iron Survivor Challenge. And, I watched both of them, and I thought they were both basically exactly as good as each other. I thought the men's was as good as the women's and vice versa. But they were, like, totally different. And, you have to, like, explain what they were totally different. Okay, whatever. So I was thinking about the two matches on SmackDown, and I thought, okay, the Chad Gable Cody match, like the actual work as workers, I mean, they were far better. Okay, the match itself, it was like on a scale of 1 to 10, the crowd was like a 6 the entire time. All right, 6 the entire time. The women's match, they got more time. So it felt like more of an epic match because they had more time. And also, when the women's match started, the crowd was just kind of like at a 2 or 3 or whatever. But they started to get more into it. And then they went to a break, and they came back, and it was like at a 5. And then they started doing these near falls, and like by the end, I mean, it's like an 8. So, there's just different things that go into it. So my Tiffany epiphany was as we were talking about this.
If I would have built better matches in my career...
No, would you stop?
Oh.
My Tiffany epiphany was when Filthy Tom said, yeah, that Cody, because I was talking about I want to see like a best of 7, and Filthy says, yeah, that Cody Chad Gable match, it was like they left a lot on the table. I was like, you're right, and oh my God, it suddenly hit me. So, if you guys did not watch Rampage or Collision, they had like 6 Continental Classic matches between the two shows. They had several on Dynamite as well, okay? And I watched Collision first. And on Collision, they had Okada, which, by the way, this is just another thing entirely, but I saw an interview with Okada the other day. You know what he did?
What's that?
He did the exact same thing that he did when he was interviewed on our show. He said, my name is Kazuchika Okada. He didn't say Kazuchika. He said Kazuchika. He said it in the interview with us, and he said it in this interview online. You know how many years I've been yelled at for having the temerity to say Kazuchika Okada? And then the guy does his own interview, and he says his name is Kazuchika.
He is a
So anyway,
that, right?
Can do my own rainmaker to a lot of you. Now, Fletcher and Okada, I watched the match on Collision, and, like, I was so underwhelmed by this match. It was, like, fine. I mean, I can't even say it was any better. Maybe it was, I guess it was good. But, like, I had such high hopes for that match Dave's telling me it's like great. I was like, no, it wasn't. I've seen plenty of Fletcher matches. I've seen plenty of Okada matches. This one was at best. It was fine.
You saw them together in September.
God, it was fine.
It was good.
So.
Wasn't great. It was good, but that's Okada now, too. It's
Whatever.
that.
No, that's the problem.
Oh, boy, here we go.
So I watched Rampage, and we had Okada versus Mark Briscoe.
Well.
This match was easily 3 times better than the Fletcher match.
Because Mark Briscoe's 3 times better than
See,
any man
I
on
was
the
thinking
planet.
all this thing, Mike, but you know what? You're wrong, because here's what happened. I finally figured it out.
All right.
The reason this match was fine, and if you watched it, it was like the first half of the match is like they're working a headlock. I mean, it was so slow, I thought they got to be going like to the, they got to be doing another decision. But they didn't, they had a finish. The reason it was just fine is because it's the final. Because Okada and Fletcher are in the same block. So when they first announced the blocks, I wanted Fletcher to beat Okada in the finals. But I looked at the blocks and I was like, they're in the same block. God. I wanted one thing and they're not going to do it. Well, then they made that weird announcement out of the blue on that Dynamite. They're like, this year, the winner of Block A faces the runner-up of Block B. The winner of Block B faces the runner-up of Block A. Frickin' hit me. Fletcher and Okada are going to finish 1 and 2 in their block. So Fletcher, who probably will win the block, he's going to face the runner-up of Block B. Okada is going to face the winner of Block A. Fletcher and Okada are both going to win, so it's going to be an all-A block final. And they're going to do this match again. There's a reason they didn't do anything in this first match, because they're going to do it again in the final. And Okada is going to get his win back, and he's going to win the Continental Classic over Okada, and they're going to have a banger. No, that is how it works. They said the winner of Block A faces the runner-up of Block B. The winner of Block B faces the runner-up of Block A. Those winners face off in the finals. That is how it works.
Yes, it is. You can go to Wikipedia right now. If you trust that, go to World's End and see the lineup. That is exactly what is going on.
Yes. So, like, that's why this match was just there. Because they saved something for the final. So I
completely believe that.
That's now my confident prediction for the Continental Classic this year. So, you know what, Fletcher, I'll say this. Fletcher's probably not going to win, but you know what? If he wins his block and they have like a total banger and he loses to Okada in the end, fine. I'm fine with that. That's good enough, okay? I wanted him to win, but this is a fine consolation prize. I'll take it.
I'm just interested to see what those two are going to be doing on January 5th. Because you have Kyle Fletcher, who came from New Japan, one of the many, like Okada, they came from New Japan, and he has now defeated Kazuchika Okada.
Yes.
One of the biggest stars in the history of Japanese wrestling, coming off a gigantic victory over Will Ospreay. Neither one of those men are going to be, as of right now, at Wrestle Dynasty on the 5th. Tokyo Dome on the 4th, or New Year's Dash on the 6th. But the 5th is the one that matters because it's the pay-per-view. But I tell you what, I'm really interested to know if Kyle Fletcher is going to be used on that show and against who, because he is on a hot streak right now. And even if he loses to Okada next time around to balance everything out in the finals, he's still a real big star right now that I'm sure... I would love to see if he's got plans for January 5th or not and who he faces.
All right, well, we got to head to a break. When we come back, we got a lot of news to get into here today. Back in a moment, Observer Live. Back in the show, Bryan Alvarez here, Wrestling Observer Live. There's always got to be those people in the chat that are like, I'm going to argue this. I'm going to be a brick wall. This guy's like, why are we saying Okada's phoning it in? Could be worse. He could be booked like Nakamura. Bro, he's being booked like Nakamura. And he is phoning it in. And you know what's funny about this is, like, I know you love AEW. I know you want to defend it, okay? I talk to people there every day. You will not find one person, if you talk to them about Okada, who does not say the exact same thing that I'm saying. And, like, it's not a bad thing. I never said it was a bad thing for Nakamura.
It's an open secret.
Good for him.
Yes.
He's not killing himself. He's out surfing and loving life. That's great. But I'm not going to sit here and say, this is the New Japan Nakamura.
No.
And I'm not going to sit here and say, this is the Okada of New Japan. No. It's not. He's making his money, and he's taking it easy. And that's fine. But listen, I know you love the place. You don't have to pretend that this is the Okada of New Japan. He's had 14 matches in AEW. Mike and I came up with two that were like bangers. Oh, well, he doesn't have to have bangers in every match. Okay, you find me a 14-match streak that Kyle Fletcher's had where he had 2 matches that were better than good. Or, like, almost anybody, like in AEW. The Young Bucks, Kenny Omega, Hangman, Jay White, Ospreay. You find any of those guys where you can find 14 matches and only 2 of those were, like, better than good. There are none, okay? All those names I mentioned, virtually every single match they had was, like, good to great, okay? Okada is like, he is in, I don't want to say first gear, but, like, he's in second gear. He's had 2 matches where he went to third gear.
He might be going uphill.
That's it. That's fine. But don't sit here and tell me that I'm wrong, because I'm not.
And if you're a fan that had heard a lot about this
and
guy...
it's fine. Can I reiterate that? It's fine.
As you reiterate that and text and type out things to the chat here, I will say that if you're a fan that heard about this guy's reputation for years and all the putzes like me that have been covering him in New Japan and saying this guy was great, he's one of the greatest wrestlers in modern wrestling history. He was that good. He became that good. He was the perfect guy to come after Tanahashi and Nakamura. But the reality is much like Shinsuke Nakamura, when they signed here in the States, it was because they wanted a physical break. And their styles changed. How much effort they put in changed. A lot changed. With Okada, you could see him still have the ability to turn it on. You saw it pieces in that match. We've seen it in other matches with Claudio last year or earlier on this year with Danielson. He's had moments where it's been turned on, but we have not seen that complete performance. Now, can he have a complete performance? I believe that he still can, but it's to be seen because he hasn't done it yet. Has he been worth the money that AEW has paid him? I would say as a fan watching his performances, no. With that said, every time he is in a live environment, do people go nuts for him, even if he's not doing anything? Yes. I don't know what the happy middle ground is going to be, but I know we haven't seen the best of this guy. But anybody saying that he's the same guy or he's put on these great performances, no, he has not.
All right, I got a couple of injury notes to talk about here. So they announced on SmackDown pretty much what we knew, although they did add one that I knew, and people kept telling me it wasn't true, but it turned out it was.
What's that?
All right. Bronson Reed broke his foot coming off the cage. And like last night, Dave was insistent this is only going to be 3 months. It's going to be 3 months. I'm pretty sure this is going to be longer than 3 months. And I'll just put it that way. This is apparently like a really bad break. So hopefully he's back sooner rather than later, but I don't think you're going to see him by WrestleMania. I mean, it was apparently like a really bad break. Then we had Jimmy Uso, suffered a broken toe. He will be out indefinitely as well. And then, dang it, I knew it.
First of all, before you even go any further, it seemed to be anybody with eyes realized something was up. And you have eyes.
With
and you saw
Tongaloa?
it. Yeah, but
Yes.
who are these people that have been coming after you by saying no?
No
he
one's
was
coming
not
after
injured?
me. Like, I asked WWE, like, is he hurt? And they were like, he's not listed as injured. He wasn't listed as injured. Well, he was.
Double speak.
They now tell us he had a torn biceps.
Well, when they talked to you,
They
technically at the
claimed-
time,
But, I mean, they acknowledged everything else. They were like, yeah, Jimmy, yeah, Bronson. But they were like, I don't think they're nothing about Tongaloa. But it was. I knew I saw it. So anyway, they blamed it on CM Punk hitting him with a toolbox. I don't buy that for a second. I actually think they're trying to get over the toolbox because, you know, there was all the toolbox stuff in the Hell in a Cell.
And Drew's back.
I would not be surprised if he went in hurt. And this was the way to write him off. He did virtually nothing in War Games. He couldn't even lift his arm. He's got a torn biceps. He's going to be out for quite a while. So those are the WWE injury updates. And then we've got what the heck is going on with Phoenix? Phoenix made a bunch of online comments. Penta has been removed from the AEW roster page. Phoenix will not be contractually free to sign until midway through 2025 due to having had injury time tacked onto his contract. In September, Dave reported his AEW deal won't expire for nearly but not quite a year. He has not performed for AEW since July. On Saturday, he responded to a fan on social media who complained he was not being used on AEW programming, writing, quote, "I will have my chance to speak the truth. No one stays in a place where they received inhumane treatment." Inhumane. Later that day, Penta made a surprise appearance. Early Monday morning, Phoenix began making ominous statements online, alluding to mistreatment by AEW management. "I needed a doctor, and you ignored me for months," he wrote. He then responded to an update on the situation, reported by Dr. Chris Featherstone on the Pancakes and Power Slams podcast. He referred to Featherstone's report as, quote, "so far the most accurate comment." Featherstone's report was, "I received information from an AEW source on November 20th regarding the Lucha Brothers status, but did not report it as I was waiting for one of them to begin speaking their mind about the situation. I was told that day that Penta's contract was soon ending with AEW. Phoenix did just that, spoke his mind. Here is some intel I received. The alleged excuse that Tony Khan found out about Lucha Brothers being in talks with WWE is fake news. And the reason behind the situation, the real reason will be revealed. There's a real story behind the situation with Rey Fenix, which is, quote, a huge injustice. And expect the Lucha Bros to go more in depth about their time in AEW when they are free and clear to do so. And when they do, it is going to be ugly." So I want to make this abundantly clear, okay? Because I know people are going to misconstrue this as always. I am not defending AEW. I don't know what happened. Maybe it's AEW's fault. Maybe it's not. I don't know. I will try to find out, okay? But I will only say this because I know this is true, and we talked about this on this show months and months ago, okay? WWE and AEW handle medical situations differently, okay? There are pros and cons to each. This is now a subjective matter, okay? If you're a fan of one or the other, it is a subjective matter which you think is better, okay? In WWE, let's take Bronson Reed coming off the cage, okay? Bronson Reed comes off the cage and he destroys his foot, all right? WWE, they are going to send him to a doctor, hospital, whatever. When they determine what's wrong, broken foot, they are going to send him to a doctor of their choice, and they are going to pay for everything, okay? He doesn't have to do anything. They're going to take care of everything. However, he has no choice in the matter. He doesn't get to choose the hospital. He doesn't get to choose a surgeon. He doesn't get to choose anything. They take care of everything, but they make the choices, okay? AEW, it's different. AEW, Bronson Reed comes off that cage, breaks his foot. Okay? He needs to find a doctor. He needs to get the test done. He needs to choose a surgeon. He needs to do everything. They then have an app. He puts all this information in the app. It's an expense. They pay him back. Okay? So neither company are you ultimately responsible for this. WWE, you don't do anything. You're at their mercy. AEW, you pick everything. But you also have to pay for everything, and then you get paid back later. Okay? So all I know here is that Phoenix says, I needed a doctor, and you ignored me for months. Okay? I don't know any of the circumstances here, but from what I understand, what needed to happen was he needed to go to a doctor. And he needed to find somebody. And he needed to do all that and then expense it back. Now, if you want to argue, this is stupid. They should just take care of everything. Well, if that's what you think, that's fine. But, like, this is how both sides do things. I've heard this from people in both companies. It's how it's done. I will try to find out more, but that's what I'll say so far. Back in a moment, Observer Live. Back in the show, Bryan Alvarez here, Wrestling Observer Live. Mike Sempervive, also of WrestlingObserver.com. Alrighty. The possibility of TKO expanding more WWE premium live events to 2 days is on the table, said Mark Shapiro. He was at the UBS Globe Media and Communications Conference, saying it is definitely an opportunity, a progression, a natural evolution. Obviously, we got WrestleMania and SummerSlam. I could see them doing this for the Royal Rumble. And honestly, I could see them doing this for Survivor Series.
Same.
And I will say that, like, I mean, it's a lot of content. But, you know, from a business standpoint, we have seen with WrestleMania, I mean, it is significantly more lucrative for them to do 2 days. And, you know, one of the things that we've talked about a lot is we need 2 Royal Rumbles on the same show. Like, you could do a 2-night Royal Rumble, the men's headlines one night, the women headlines the other. Now, my idea for Survivor Series I don't know if I talked about this on this show. So we had a women's War Games and a men's War Games. That's 2 War Games every year, okay? One of the things with War Games is, for it to really work, the heels have to have the advantage. And if the baby faces have the advantage, you've got to injure one of them so they're still outnumbered, okay? But I keep hearing this stupid excuse. It'd be too, it's just like, it's too, you know, every time it's just, you know, contrived. It's always the heel. Bro, everything in wrestling is contrived, okay? You watch a Royal Rumble and it's the same every single match. Somebody will run wild right before they're eliminated. Every single time. Everything is contrived, okay? If you're worried about this, well, every year we have to have the baby faces win one of these stupid advantages. Well, there's an easy answer. Don't do 2. The show is called Survivor Series. This year, it should have been men's War Games, because we actually have like a feud that's been a long time in the making, Bloodline versus Bloodline. Men's War Games. And the women, instead of doing a War Games, would do, shock of all shocks, a Survivor Series match.
Whoa!
Since the show is called Survivor Series.
Like a 5-on-5 elimination?
Then, next year, it doesn't really matter, but you could choose. Next year, the men have a 5-on-5 elimination Survivor Series match at Survivor Series, and the women get to do War Games. Now, when you only do 1 War Games a year, you can go like 3 straight years with the heels getting the advantage. Year 4, you're like, okay, we kind of run this a ways. The baby faces get the advantage. That's when one of them turns, one of them gets hurt, whatever. So the baby faces, even though they won the advantage, they're still outnumbered. Then you go 2 more years with the heels getting the advantage. Then you do a year with the baby faces and you hurt one or you turn one. I mean, that's the easiest way to do this. It's difficult when you do 2 a year, because then it's like, oh yeah, if we do 2 a year, the heels get the advantage 6 times in 3 years. Well, take it away. 1 War Games a year, men or women, the other gets the Survivor Series match on a show called Survivor Series, which was built on Survivor Series matches. Make it 2 days if you want to. 1 day's got the Survivor Series, 1 day's got the War Games. That's my point.
And you're right. To me, War Games shouldn't be a annual event anyway. You should break it out whenever it's time. That's when you should do that. But they're not. They're going to do it every single year, and that's fine. Like you said, this year you didn't need 2. I would like to see them go back to having at least 1 5-on-5 elimination and tell a story that way in a match. But with that said, what they're probably going to do is go to 2 nights and have 2 War Games on 2 separate nights. That to me is kind of crazy, but the idea of 2-day PLEs, we talked about this a long time ago when we talked about WrestleMania, and I know you hated it then, but realistically, that was the path they were going to be traveling on, and I'm actually for it, especially when it comes to the Royal Rumble, because if you're able to pull that off, those are 2 unique things, where it feels as though sometimes we're just shoving two of everything on a show because it's got to be men and women. The women's Royal Rumble is to me, a unique thing that you can main event with as easy as you can almost main event a men's deal because you're going into WrestleMania. So you have your stories and people kind of up anyway. You have surprises you can add into the mix. The idea of a 2-night Royal Rumble, I actually like that one more than I do SummerSlam or Survivor Series even.
Yeah, Royal Rumble, I mean, like next year. Not like this coming January, but like that should be the big thing in 2026. The Royal Rumble is 2 nights. Men's Royal Rumble on one night, Women's Royal Rumble on the other night. I mean, here's the other thing with 3-night pay-per-views, everybody. You don't have to do this. I hope they do. But I'd much rather watch 2 3-hour shows, have a Men's Royal Rumble and 3 matches, have a Women's Royal Rumble and 3 matches, then one show where we open with an hour-long Royal Rumble, have 3 more matches in between, have another hour-long, and it's like, God, that's a long freaking show. It'd be much more digestible over 2 nights.
Yeah, and the people on the undercard, I think, would benefit from that greatly, too, so you don't have that come down after the first Royal Rumble that leads you into whatever match it's going to be, and you have all of these titles now, and you need to justify them, and that's another reason that when you look at a marquee of a 2-night event of WWE coming to your town and taking your state money to come, one of the things that they can hype up is we have all these championships that are going to be on the poster. Do they mean anything? We'll see. But the reality is, when it comes to the big sell of the event, it lines up perfectly.
All right. Getting a lot of stuff here about Phoenix.
Well, look, before you say that, let me just mention something to those of you in the chat, especially the Twitch chat that are going after each other about this. You need to take your emotion out.
What are they going out? What are they going after each other about?
Going after each other over the contract, should AEW not hold people, all that sort of stuff. You need to be pragmatic about this and take your emotions and fandom out of it. It is not the best thing in the world, in my personal opinion, to hold somebody and add on injury time. With that said, you signed those contracts, and you have people looking over those contracts for you. And to me, a lot of this is like the injury settlement thing in the NFL that affected Russell Wilson last year, where Denver just pulled him off the field. And the same thing this year with Daniel Jones of the Giants, where we don't want you anymore. We don't want you to get hurt, and we're not going to pay you $25 million. And people complain about that, but it's like you signed that contract. This is kind of the same thing for anybody that's going to sign a contract that does not negotiate out of it with their lawyers. Do not add on injury time. Like, somebody's got to fight that for you. And whether it's right, wrong, whatever, you need to have a good agent or have somebody that can help negotiate that out and have some levers in there where that doesn't affect you or you want to take that out of there. Until that happens, I don't want to say tough, but like tough. He did sign the contract. He is getting paid money, even though he's sitting at home. Much like Ricky Starks. Is it beneficial to wrestling fans? Is it beneficial to the company? I don't think so, because I wouldn't want somebody miserable being there who just wants to get out, and I've added on a bunch of injury time. To me, that doesn't really help things, and it could damage somebody who may want to come in to the company.
I got 2 things to say here. Number 1, there's a lot in the chat, all anti-AEW. Listen, I don't even know why I'm explaining this, because I know you all know this. WWE and AEW do the exact same thing. If you're injured, they tack on time to the end of your deal. They both, like everybody does it, okay? It's not an AEW, it's not a, like they all do it, okay? And the other thing is this, and I think you must know this, but yeah, if I wanted to leave to go somewhere else, and they were like, nah, you were hurt for 6 months, we're adding 6 months to the end. Yeah, I'd be disappointed, okay? But you know what? I wouldn't be broke. Because it's not like you sign for 2 years, you get hurt for 6 months, and either they don't pay you during that 6 months or they don't pay you. You're paid the entire time, okay? So it's like, yeah, you want to leave, but it's not like in either company you're getting like financially screwed in any way. It's not like if I sign for a year and I get hurt 6 months in, they go, well, you can't work for 6 months, so we're not going to pay you for 6 months. No, they're going to pay me the entire time I'm hurt. Then they're going to tack on 6 months, and they're going to pay me the entire 6 months. I'm getting paid an extra 6 months if they tack on 6 months to my contract. I signed the contract. It's like, I did it. I'm disappointed about it, whatever. You can argue they should let me, but the fact is, I signed the deal. I got paid the entire time, and like, that's it. So... yeah. It's not like you're okay, you got paid for 2 years, but you were hurt for 6 months. So we're going to extend your contract 6 months, but we won't pay you that 6 months. That doesn't happen. You're still paid. They're paying you more for that injury time. You're being paid to not work. And then you get paid to work what you were supposed to work if you weren't hurt. There are a lot of other things to be upset about, okay? Plenty.
Somebody needs to be Kurt Flood then and challenge that on behalf of other wrestlers in court and challenging that when that time is added on. Say Rey Mysterio back in the day with WWE when they added on time of Bryan Danielson. Okay, you don't think that this is right? You signed this, but have a beef with what you signed? You can go and try to take it to arbitration or go and try to fight that then if it's that important to you. Otherwise, it needs to be negotiated out at the source at the time you sign the contract. And another thing when it comes to being pragmatic, looking at how WWE and AEW does things, a lot of people love that WWE system, and that is great. And I understand people who like the AEW system. Ultimo Dragon was hurt in WCW, and they had a WCW-appointed doctor that cut a tendon in his elbow that looked like it would end his career. So for the people that go, well, man, WWE's got... Yes, the Andrews Orthopedic Center and all the people, they're top-notch. But some people have doctors already, like a Bryan Danielson probably does, for example, who he trusts, and that's where he goes, and he wants this person to do it, to do that. So there is no right answer. To fight over that, it's just a matter of philosophy, period, at the end of the day. And there is nobody that's wrong because at the end of the day, somehow or another, that company is going to pay all of those bills for you.
Here's another thing for everybody arguing about these contracts, okay? I want you all to imagine this, all right? I actually don't know how AEW does this. I do know that WWE did this like this forever. WWE would not release you if you were injured. Okay? Like, if you were hurt, they would keep you under contract until you were not hurt, and then they'd either re-sign you or they would fire you or whatever. They didn't fire you when you were hurt, okay? So, everyone's complaining about how I signed a 2-year deal, I was hurt for 6 months, they want to extend it 6 months. They don't think that's fair, okay? Well, let's think about this. Let's say that you work for WWE, okay? You're Bronson Reed. Let's say that you have a 2-year deal. They're paying you for 2 years, okay? And you're one of those people that's like, 2 years, 2 years. Like, when my 2 years is done, like, that's it, okay? Well, you're 23 months in. You have 1 month left on your contract. You jump off a cage and you destroy your ankle, and you're out 9 months, all right? So that means when you're hard as stone, it's 2 years, no adding nothing. Okay, well, next month you're unemployed. And you can't work for 8 months because you're hurt. Well, in WWE, they would just continue paying you for that entire 9 months until you were ready to return, and then maybe they'd fire you then. Are people going to complain at that point? If they get your 2 years, it's up. There's a lot of ways to think about this. Back in a moment, Observer Live. Just a quick note before this free video. If you click like and subscribe, I'd be very thankful. Well, we reviewed SmackDown yesterday, Tom, and you don't even get SmackDown. You're very, just, you know how you are.
Fine. Whatever. I don't care. Whatever.
That's your impression of me?
Yeah, that's my impression of you.
Wow.
So what are we, at least, I hope you at least watch the SmackDown main event.
I watched the entire show.
Okay, because there's a lot of people that still like your review, Tom.
I went on the board, and I saw like 2 people.
Yeah, do you go on Twitter?
Yeah, I do go on Twitter,
You read my emails?
I do go on
the
Twitter.
The text messages? I mean...
Do you go on Twitter? Because if you do,
yes.
You would have seen one of the greatest moments in world history.
In world history, really.
World history. Frank Tate walked away the victor of the fight, but he walked away an even bigger winner when it comes to life. This man completed what I would say is the best high five, the best dap up in the history of the galaxy. This man had his dog. His dog. And when I say dog,
Barely a dog.
I mean D-O-G and D-A-W-G. This was a dog, baby. The dog was so proud. You can see just the elation in that dog's face. He threw that paw up. He let it hang for a few moments, and then he brought it down for the dap.
Tom's not even doing this justice. Everyone has seen a dog,
Listen.
like you put your hand out and the dog like puts his paw up to shake hands. This freaking dog goes, ah, hoppa! Like, what? That was more than a high five. I don't even know what you would even term that. He dunked. He dunked that man.
30 million views on this clip. And that is about 1/10 of what it should have. So if you haven't seen it, you deserve it. Treat yourself. Go to my Twitter. Watch Frank Tate high five his dog.
No, he did not high five his dog.
The dog high fived
His dog high fived him. Yes. He just wanted like a, just boom. And this dog was like, no way, brother. You knock that man out. I'm going to give you a big time dunking high five from way up high. You go high five, up high, down low, too slow. This was an up high. Guy should have pulled his hand away.
It's the best thing you've ever seen.
Man, too slow, Joe. Yeah, it was pretty good. Not going to lie. I liked it. I take slight glee, I guess, in seeing that we somehow turned the Twitch chat into the YouTube chat.
It's been a day.
That's pretty impressive. God. Oh, man.
See, going after Conan even in there. Man.
Can we add...
Cubano,
I don't even... I have Lenny blocked. Can we add another one of the Lenny is wrong chart here?
God bless Lenny.
Conan is not a Mexican.
No.
Mark that down. Hey, listen, we got a lot coming up.
He just played one on TV during the WCW years.
Got a lot coming up today. We just had Filthy on. That was a real fun show, only for subscribers, WrestlingObserver.com. Dave's going to be back up tonight. We will try to get Paul Fontaine on tonight to talk UFC. Supposed to be on last night, but went to bed.
Some 310 talk.
I'm going to get in the... So anyway, that's going to be that. I'll be back tomorrow with Mike. All that good stuff. Yeah, you should check out my Cameo. I'm Bryan Alvarez on Cameo.
What can I get?
Well, it's the Christmas season. Like, if everybody in the chat bought a Cameo for Lenny from me, I'd be rich. And I'd have a lot of fun. So maybe we could think about that. I mean, especially after today.
Oh my God, if you put all the cameos together, it would just be one long promo on Lenny.
Yeah.
What do you have to max out on now that they cut your time?
What do you mean? I don't know. There's just there's a clock at the top. It's probably like 10 minutes. I just, it's weird. It's like a little line that goes across. It tells you, but it doesn't tell you how much time it is. You have to guess. Anyway, I got to go, everybody. I'm back later on tonight with Dave. Check us out on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, YouTube, or F4WOnline.com. More where this came from. Yeah. Talk to you next time. Wrestling Observer Live.